Welcome back. In this video we will learn how we can set status of user, that if user is online or offline, and we will view that status to the other users, that if this particular user is online or offline. For that, just go to your home activity and just create a function here called status public, or even could be private void status, and just pass in a boolean status value. And now we need to get reference to our users in the database. So for that, I'm going to create a database reference. Ref is equal to firebase database. So I don't have created there, so I can directly get by just grabbing an instance to firebase database dot get reference, and now I can pass in the reference to my users section. And from users section, I want to get to the particular child that is logged in, and that particular child is the user that is logged in. So I can get this user that is logged in by mauth. It's not there, I guess. Let me check. It's not there, so let me create a firebase user here. Firebase user is equal to firebase auth dot get instance dot get current user, and from the user I need to get its UID, user dot get UID, and then what I need to apply a value event listener dot set value. I need to set this the value. No, I need to get to this particular user, and then I need to set its status offline or online. So for that, I need to go to, again, it's another child. Let me have a look at this structure here in the database. It's ID of the user, and then inside it there is another child called status, and I need to set its value. So I can do is child, and this child is actually the status. Let me check if it's not uppercase. Status, perfect. And then we need to set its value, and let me scroll it here. So we need to set its value, that will be the status that we are getting from as an argument to this function. So dot add value event list, add on success and failure listener. Sorry, we can add another listener by just dot add on failure listener. You don't need to provide semicolon here. If you will provide, it will end statement, and you will not be able to add failure listener on it. New failure, new on failure listener, and then we need to add semicolon here. So we need to just log dot e that user online comma boolean dot to string status. You don't need to add this. I'm adding this as an indication. This tells me that user is online now. And what's the error here? We don't need to just store it inside a reference, we can directly do this, so that's why the error was occurring. So now we have successfully set our status. uh, if you remember a class in which we have discussed our activity life cycle, in which I've told you that whenever an activity starts, first of all its on start function gets called, and then its on resume gets called, and then its on start gets called. On start is the function, sorry, on create gets called is the function in which we do most of our stuff. But there are two other functions that were get called. Those were on pause and on stop. So inside our on resume function, we know that this will get called whenever user come to this activity. This is going to be called. That means that whenever this function is called, then user is online. So we can set status here. We can set status here that user is online. So we can set it by true. That means user is online. And there is another function called on stop. So we can set status false here, because user is going to just stop this activity. So that's it, I guess. The coding stuff is done. Now we need to go to our chat. Now we need to go to our row, user row. Where is that? Here. And we need to create a little green and little dark dot to indicate that if user is online or not. Let me set an IC launcher foreground to this. It's src IC launcher foreground. Let me set it the background. Okay, so let me just go to bottom of this and just add another circle image view. Just copy and paste it. We need to give it 15 dp width and 15 dp of height. And then we need to just remove these constraints from it, and we need to just remove its ID, and its ID is going to be user online. And then just remove its src as well. And let's just add its border. Border color is going to be #05 df29. This is a light green color. This will look nicer when it shows the user is online. And its width and height should be, we need to set only its width, and this is going to be 10 dp. And if you go to its design, just zoom in and just select this guy from here and just move it at the bottom of this and just attach it to this corner and at the bottom of it. So just remove all the margins from left and make them 0, make the bottom one 0 as well. So now it will be here. Alright, so let's add src to this one. So I'm going to add src at the rate mipmap IC launcher. So if I go to its design now, as you can see that how nicer it looks. And we need to just copy and paste this one again. Change its ID to user offline and just change its color to #BF BF. This is a kind of a darker color, and we need to make its visibility gone, so this will be not visible. Now we have set up this one. Now we need to go our user adapter. So let's go to adapters and user adapter and just create two other image views here for user online and user offline. User online equals item view dot find view by id r dot id dot user online, and just control D to duplicate it offline. So now we need to go to our on bind view holder and we need to check if user dot status, that means if user dot status is true, that means user is online. Font string, oh, I made the status string. Let me check that. If I go to models and then user, so status is, as user is string there, so we can have a check here dot if this user dot status equals online, and we can even just to lowercase this one to lowercase dot if user dot equals dot online, that then we can if user dot status is not online, then we will okay, let's say if user status is online, then we need to just make our user online image visible dot user online dot set visibility visible, and we need to do its reverse if user is offline, and I can have a else if here if user is offline, then just we can make it invisible. Sorry, it's visible because user is offline, and we need to make it visible, and we need to make this one here invisible. That means its visibility should gone, and the user online should be gone here. Perfect. So now we have to make another change, that is, if I go to home activity, we were setting this status true, so we can add status like it was boolean. Let me just convert this one to string, and just pass in online, and here just pass in offline. Perfect. So now we have everything set up. Let me run an emulator here. I'm going to run Android 9 emulator because I'm loving the interface and working of this one. It's far better than Android 8. So we are done with the things, I guess. Let me just run this project. So we have now our application launched, and if I go to context now, there is nothing visible like that. But if I go to our users here, and it says that this user is online. Okay, so but here our image is not visible. Let me check what's the problem here. If I go to user adapter, oh, you can see that how bigger mistake we have done here. This should be offline, and this should be offline visible and online invisible. Let me just run it again. These type of mistakes occurs when you just copy and paste things out. And it says that this user is offline. Let me just run another emulator and run the project on that. It's Android 8, so I'm going to run it on that. So this project is launching. Let me just sign in via other user on this one. This is a kind of Android emulator problem. Let me check if I have an image here. Let's just get back. There is no image, so I'm going to save it. So now it says both users are offline, but let me check here in the firebase. This one is online, and if I go to the other user, this is online also, but why these are offline? Let me just close this one and let's see if it goes to offline. And you can see that this is done to offline, and if I close this one as well, this is offline now. So now if I run it again, on both devices, now you can see that one is online and one is offline, and boom, both are online now. This is, oh, there is an error that this should be visible here, that if user is online, the user online should be visible and offline should be gone, and if user is offline, offline should be visible and online should be gone. And another change we need to make is that just copy this status and on resume function from here and just paste it in inside our main activity. That's also a login activity. This, what this will do is whenever we whenever it goes to the login page, it will automatically make the user online, and whenever we will go off the home activity, it will make the user offline. So I'm going to run it on my both devices. First of all, I'm going to run on Android 8, this one, and then I'm going to run it on another device, Android 9. As you can see that it says user is offline now. As you can see that as soon as this user gets logged in, this says that the other user is logged in, and this says that this one user is logged in. So if I just close it or presses the home button, you can see that this says straight away that this user is offline. Alright, so if I just make it again back, it's online now, and if I just let me just press the back button here, it says the user is offline, and if I close this up, it's still offline. But if I run it again, now user is online. Okay, so here's a little challenge for you that in this main activity, in this message activity, can you just make it here that this should display here online. And there is another issue I'm seeing is that as I leaves the this activity, it just tells me that the user is offline. So we need to make another change here. Just make it on, instead of on stop, just make it on destroy. On destroy. So as long as this remains in the background, it user is going to be online now. First I'm running on Android 9, this guy. Now I'm going to run it on another device. As you can see that it is saying that this is online still if I goes to this activity. So there's a little challenge for you that or at the bottom of this name, can you overlay, can you display here that online, little online text here, or offline? Can you do that? So I'm waiting for your response. Okay, so now I'm going to do that. If I go to my message activity, and let me go to its layout. Inside my toolbar there are two, so I want another thing here. Let's create a linear layout here. Make its width and height wrap content, and set orientation vertical, and the space in this text here, and add another text view, wrap content, and just give it an ID. This ID is going to be user is online, and just give it margin left 10 dp, margin start 10 dp, size 14 sp is fine, and just make its text color going to be white. Use it from Android colors. Give a little text here. Okay, perfect. So now if I go to my messages activity, where I'm setting other things, I need to just set in. Just create another text view here. And let me grab the information here. Here is the get user info function, and in this one it is getting its user, so I can easily txt user online dot set text user dot status. Perfect. So now if I run it again, so let me run it on another device, Android 9. If I go to this one, as you can see that it displays user is online. So let's let the other one run. Let the other one launch. So it has launched. Now let me check it if it says that. As you can see that it says user is online. So if I get back, if I send message to some messages to this one, there is, I think, some issue with messages. This user is not created correctly. This user has some errors, but for the sake of this video, just check that online status is correct. If I get offline to this one by just destroying it, now it should change that user is offline, but it's still saying that user is online. I think there is an exception occurred. Alright, so there was the exception that this user dot status was null. Oh, this is not exception, but the exception was that we haven't attached with its ID. So what we have to do is here user txt user online is equal to find view by ID r dot id dot user is online. So we missed it, that's why it was causing the error. I include these errors in my videos because this lets you know that how much errors occur because of our mistakes, our human errors. So you should at least know that how can we resolve them. If any error occurs to me, I just checks in the what's the error, and then I just go to the Google and search for that error. So as you can see that messages are now loaded correctly. That was the problem there. So if I just get back, it's working perfect. Okay, now it is launched on the other device. So if I open it up, and you can see that it is also displaying the messages. So if I close this up like this, as you can see that it says the user is offline. Perfect. So it's working perfectly fine the way we wanted it to work. Oh, I've opened wrong app. So if I open it again, and you can see that it says user is online. So if I enter some text here and send a message to the user, and if I open it again, you can see that we have the message, but we need to make some notifications to work in the next few videos. And other thing is that user should see that if his message is seen by the other user or not. So in the next videos we will implement that. So thanks for watching this video. See you in the next one.